Win big in 2021 with RotoBowler.com's MMA Premium Pass. Are you ready to dominate? RotoBowler's premium DFS package includes exclusive tools, DFS cheat sheets, research stations, our lineup optimizer, and a whole lot more to help you win big. For a limited time, get that premium pass for 50% off and use my promo code Knuckler as in R.A. Dickey for another 10% discount. Just visit rotoballer.com/radio, sign up today, and start rotoballing like a boss. Great gift idea with the holidays around the corner. And with that, what's up, everybody? This is Brady Grove with Rotoballer's official MMA podcast, Tap That. We're here with another interlude episode, and with me today is an extraordinarily special guest. I've been excited about this for a while. I can't name a medium in which you might not recognize him from. He is a super heavyweight at the moment, currently training out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Trap Gambino. Trap, how are you doing today?
Hey, how you doing, brother? I'm enjoying the Vegas sun today. I heard it's a little cold everywhere else.
Currently in Lexington, Kentucky, and it's below freezing today.
So, man, well, I'll soak it up for you.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. But Trap, where do we start? All right, so first up, for folks at home that may not know, how did you get your start building up a social media following?
This honestly goes way, way back to the MySpace, putting graphics on the your profile days and getting girls to write fan signs on their boobies and posting the pictures up of it and using MySpace as a platform to spread your music and stuff. I started getting recognition around those times. Maybe when I was like 15, 16 years old.
Now, was it on TikTok or Instagram that you started posting the videos of you hitting the bag and losing a significant amount of weight?
So that was on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, that was on Facebook in about 2014. And that's when I started really gaining like notoriety and like the MMA community. And that's when social media really started to jump off for me.
And so tell people that might not know, like, how much weight you like have lost so far since you dedicated yourself to weight loss.
So since I started, it's honestly been like a slow process with me. So first it was, I had my first kid and it was like, I'm just going to get in shape. I was 465 pounds, 5'11", morbidly obese. I got out of breath tying my shoes and, I obviously something had to change. So I started slowly working out. Like I would hit the bag for like maybe 30 seconds a day. And then next week I would hit the bag for a minute a day. Then the next week, 90 seconds. And then it would just progress. And I would start posting these videos. And slowly but surely I started losing a lot of weight. And I got down to like 390 pounds. And that's when I decided, like, hey, man, I have something going here. The social media following's growing and my skills are growing. Maybe I should just say, fuck it, move to Las Vegas and follow my dreams and see what happens. And that's when I picked up all my things. I moved to Las Vegas and fast forward a couple crazy moments and I'm down to 340 pounds now. So together I've lost over 100 pounds and I went vegan. So that definitely had a big effect on my weight loss. And yeah, man, I've lost a lot of weight. I got a long way to go, but I'm definitely on the road and the pedals to the metal.
Yeah, you've talked about how much better you feel, how much of a different kind of weight you feel like you don't have to carry anymore now that like you've stopped engaging with the different trolls on the internet, because that was something famously that you said you used to engage with them and you didn't think that was really healthy for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people know I was on a Dr. Phil show. And a lot of that had to do with like the trolling and the fans and stuff like that, my weight issues. And, for the longest time, I wouldn't say ignorant enough, but I was just, I did what everybody else did. And I defended myself on social media against people who had no idea who I was. And I got to the point where I literally couldn't keep up with these people. It'd be like people from like Japan would randomly message me that never met me, never heard, like I've never heard of these people, and would say like, you know, I'm a disgrace to mixed martial arts or something like that. Or they would just say some really deep, mean stuff. And my way of like replying to those guys would be like, you know, fuck you, you know, I would call them names, you know, talk shit back to them, because you give somebody negative, they put negative back. And I don't know if we can cuss on here, so my apologies about that.
No. Let it fly, man. I'm not going to censor
But
whatever's in your head.
oh, okay. So yeah, they would feed me negativity, so I would give negativity back. And that was the dumbest thing I could have possibly done, because it ended me up on the Dr. Phil show, in front of national, you know, television, basically getting trolled by not only the people on social media, but now I'm getting trolled by like producers and shit on TV. So I learned the hard way. It was definitely a hard lesson to learn, to not engage with trolls on social media. And it's easy to make fun of me because, you know, I'm a fat guy with long hair and I talk a lot of shit. But when it, you know, you can call me fat and say I suck and all that stuff. But when it comes to like family and stuff like that, I feel like people need to take a step back and realize that, you know, just because I'm on TV, just because I'm on social media acting crazy and stuff, like I'm not just a character. Like I am a real person. I do have a real life and a real family and real friends and people who love me. And I'm starting to realize the separation of those, because for the longest time I was living my character.
Well, of course. And the thing is that people who, saying not to engage with trolls is the easiest advice in the world to give. And
Right.
I'm sure the hardest advice in the world to follow, because that advice is often given by people who have 15 followers on every account. It sounds like a very, very difficult thing to resist.
It really is. The biggest problem with me is when they say something that I know isn't true, and my dumbass has to tell them that it isn't true, even though they probably know it isn't true, but they're just saying it to get a reaction. Like, I'll have people all the time. Like I got a lot of fans too. Don't get me wrong. I got fans from all over the world, and I got a lot of support in the MMA community. I got Hall of Famers that have my back in the UFC and stuff like that. So I got a lot of support, but at the same time, I get people messaging me like, "Oh, this is why nobody in the MMA community takes you seriously. This is why the world hates you." And like, I want so bad to tell them like, "Hey, man, that's not true." Like, I do got a lot of love too, but then sometimes you get to the point where you defend yourself so much that you just end up looking like a jackass. And I feel like I definitely got to that point. So now I'm to the point where I'm ready to put in work for all the people who supported me and stop complaining about the people who didn't. Because fuck them. I'm ready to work, man.
Well, so let's talk about some of that work. First off, how is the knee, man?
The knee is 100% fine. The knee is good now. I haven't felt it in like weeks, so that's a good thing. I did like my own strength and conditioning program with my coach Shonuff, and I'm not gonna lie, I did not go to the doctor to get an MRI or anything like that, because I didn't want to know if it was like a tear or anything like that. I wanted to just say fuck and buckle down and see if it could heal itself, and it seems like it did. So I'm ready to go. And on that note, I actually have an announcement, if I can make that real quick.
That sounds amazing. Please make it.
So the announcement I want to make, I haven't told anybody else this yet. I'm fighting on January 22nd for sure. It's official. I have an opponent. I cannot name my opponent, but I can name the date and the place and the event that I'm fighting for. So I'm fighting for Rise Fighting Championship again, and it'll be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it'll be on January 22nd.
Oh, well, that definitely covers a whole range of questions that I already had. That is, I mean, that's great news. It's great to hear that your knee is doing so much better. And for folks that may not be aware, you suffered that injury in your, I believe that was your first amateur fight against Arthur Suggs back in July.
Yeah, I was fighting. That was in July 17th, I believe. So yeah, I suffered an injury at the end of that round, and props to my opponent. They gave him the win. Hopefully I can beat this next guy who's not Arthur Suggs. I can tell you that. And after I beat this guy, I'm hoping to get that rematch from Arthur Suggs because in my opinion, I think he's running, but we'll see.
Well, so at this point, now that it's been July, September, August, it's been a handful of months now since that first fight.
Yes.
Given the way that you did the flashes that you did have in the fight, the moments, the moments maybe that didn't go your way, what are your takeaways now that you've had this amount of time to reflect from that first performance?
Man, so it's kind of like a funny story, man. I could sit here and I could be like, hey man, I stubbed my toe on the way into the octagon. I didn't sleep. I had the shits that night. I could make a million fucking excuses. But that everybody has bad nights, everybody has good nights. It's all about how you perform in the cage. And considering the amount of training that I did, considering the amount of nerves that I had, I am proud of what I accomplished inside that cage on that night. But I also know that, man, that is not me in there, and I'm going to be so much better. My coaches know that that's not me in there. I did look trained. I did look like I knew what I was doing. I looked calm and I looked relaxed. I'll give myself some props, but I also know what I can do, and I know that if I actually fought the way I could really fight, that guy wouldn't have lasted 30 seconds with me. Cause like, I was kind of pop shotting a little, I was just having fun. And, I was more asking myself questions in there than I was fighting, I felt. So next time I'm going to be fighting instead of asking myself questions. Cause now I know all the questions. Now I know the answers to all those questions I was asking myself. I wasn't sure what would happen if I got punched in the face. I wasn't sure what would happen if I punched somebody else in the face. It was literally like that fight was my first time sparring in that whole camp. So, like when I punched the guy, it was like I didn't even punch a punching bag during the build up to that fight. So like the whole training was off and everything. And I know so much more now, and I'm so much more prepared now, not just mentally but physically. And I can't wait to show you guys Trap 2.0. That's for sure.
Well, so one of the things that I'm most fascinated by about you is the way I've heard you describe yourself on like other podcasts and in other interviews you've done. And I've heard you describe yourself as a performer. And you had talked about maybe not as doing as much straight up martial arts training in the lead up to that first fight. And so
Right.
do you think that like in lieu of the martial arts training that you didn't think that you were doing enough of, that the performer kind of filled in the gaps a bit in that fight out of nerves?
1000%. I mean, I can't believe you're the first one to hit the nail on the head with that. Yeah, man. Sometimes smiling covers the nerves. Sometimes when you put your hands down, you say, "Come on, pussy,
Absolutely.
do something." It covers up the nerves. You know what I mean? So, yeah, absolutely. The performer in me definitely took over a lot of what was lacking in that fight, and hopefully this time I'll find a good balance between both. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I mean, you see that in social situations. I mean, when you enter elementary school, when people are nervous or embarrassed about something, you revert to certain behaviors that you're more comfortable in that situation. And you see with fighters in the UFC, some guys are getting hit in the face a lot, and the momentum is kind of steering around. They start inviting the punches and talking more trash like on that end.
Yeah, see, I definitely feel like that's nerves. I definitely feel like that's nerves.
Absolutely. I think that nerves are one of the most underestimated contributing factors in the outcome of all sporting events.
100% and underutilized. So, like during that fight, like the nerves that I felt was like I don't know, like it was just weird. It wasn't like I was scared of who was in front of me. I definitely wasn't scared of him. Like I probably should have been because you should be afraid of everybody that you're fighting, and like you not afraid, but you should respect their skills enough to where you know that they can hurt you. And that's one thing I didn't feel in that fight. I didn't feel a sense of danger. The only thing I felt was a sense of like nerves because I know that I didn't train enough to like put on the show that I want to put on here. So here's a jab. Here's another jab. Oh shit, it keeps connecting. Here's another jab. All right, let's throw a kick in there. All right, let's throw an actual combination. Kick, right hand jab. Boom, he goes down. It's literally the first combination I throw in the fight. The guy goes down. And like I'm thinking all this as it's happening. And I'm just like, man, like I made this so much harder than it had to be. So next time I'm definitely I don't know if you noticed, but I've taken a little step back from social media and a big step up in the gym. And I'm working hard, man. I've made sacrifices that I can't even tell you right now, but I've made a lot of sacrifices that is going to make a big difference in this next fight, next upcoming fights.
So in that last fight, a lot of people, a lot of your detractors will accuse you of quitting in that fight. And I heard your explanation given on another podcast. And the thing is, you're so honest and even like the people who don't like you for, you know, whatever the reasons may be, it's like, I can't understand it because you're so forthright about how what you're presenting yourself to be, and the explanation you gave about, you know, the knee and you know, immediately thinking about the long-term implications of your knee in that first fight makes complete sense to me.
Right. Yeah, you could absolutely say that I quit on the stool. Like you could put that in those words and it would make sense because, you know, I quit on the stool. I didn't get up and I didn't continue to fight. Whether my knee was hurt or not, I take that full responsibility on myself. Literally the moment I got to my hotel room, I was getting calls from people who train UFC champions, and they're calling me like, come on, Trap, what are you doing, man? Like you're better than that. I trained with you, and like you should have just went out there and whooped his ass on one leg. And like I definitely understand where I fucked up, and I won't make that mistake again. And it's also it's a pride issue, and it's also like it has to do with paying your dues. Like a lot of these guys, whether it's right or wrong, they'll respect me more if I just go out on one leg and fight, whether it'll injure me more or not. And that's just whether it's right or wrong, it's the martial arts way. And I'm trying to learn that, you know, because I'm a guy who, like, to be honest, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt myself, but I just want to put on a good show. And there's a lot of goofy motherfuckers in the way that I'm willing to step on to do that. So, so yeah, man, I don't know where I was going with that. I was rambling, but
No, I definitely see where you're going with that. And so you say that that's something you're trying to learn. Are you finding that that's an idea that you're like getting a little more comfortable with as you're putting in more time?
yeah, for sure. Because, you know, to this day, I've been a part of teams and gyms and all that stuff, but I've never really, like, I haven't got the training that all these other athletes have, unfortunately. Like, you know, there's a million excuses why, but I just haven't. And now I'm making all the sacrifices so I can, like literally almost going homeless just so I can train in a gym and live by a gym, and giving up spending time with my family and sleeping in the same house as my family so I can dedicate my life to this training. And that's the sacrifices all these guys take, and that's the sacrifices I'm taking now. And it's not as easy because, you know, I hate making excuses, but there's a lot of things that's holding me back. I'm fighting against a lot of odds, and at the end of the day, everybody will see that. But for now, I'm just shutting up. I'm not complaining at all. You know, I'm working and I'm training hard. And January 22nd, everybody's going to see exactly how hard I'm training and working.
So are you originally from Ohio?
I am. I'm from Ohio, but I was kind of like raised a little all over the country. My mom is a bit of a gypsy, but yeah, I'm from Ohio, small town called Worcester, Ohio.
Okay,
It's
cool.
it's about an hour south of Cleveland.
So how long have you been in Las Vegas? You said 2000, like a little after 2014?
No, it was after that. So I would say about 4 years. We moved out here 2016. So a
Okay.
little over 4 or 5 years.
So how did you end up getting linked up with the very high quality like coaches and camps that you're with right now?
So honestly, just social media and marketing. A lot of those guys
Dang.
were following me before I even came out here. And then when I came out here, for example, I met Dewey Cooper by training at Mayweather's gym. So when I first came out here, I paid a ridiculous amount of money to train at the Mayweather's gym for a month, just because I wanted to be, around everybody and a part of the aura. And I didn't even know what the hell I was doing out here. So I paid for a boxing gym. So I came out here and I started training the boxing. And then I saw Dewey out there and we linked up. He saw that I was a big guy that could move around really well. He liked the way that I moved for my size. And then we started doing private sessions. And yeah, that's how I met him. And when it comes to like Gary Goodridge and Mark Coleman and all those, I actually met those guys in Ohio. So I met Gary Goodridge through a documentary I filmed for the UFC, which was called Legends of the Cage. And we went around Ohio and handed out candy and like inspiration to sick kids and kids in jail and hospitals and Ronald McDonald houses and stuff like that. And I showed up and I was the only camera guy on the crew. And Gary and me just hit it off right off the bat because we both like the same music. The first stop was at a juvenile facility, and I happened to grow up in a juvenile facility. I was in jail a lot as a kid, so he kind of forced me to get up on stage and talk to the kids. And ever since then, me and him we're singing, and there's videos of us online of us singing in the car together and all kinds of funny stuff. And he actually trained my wife a little bit too. So yeah, it's a small MMA world. And when I came out here, the party scene is where I met Diego and Nick Diaz. Yeah, I actually met Diego through his coach. Well, his coach at the time, Joshua. That's a whole nother story. And I met Nick Diaz through a friend of mine. And then me and Nick ended up hanging out, and he ended up like crashing at my couch a couple times, which is fucking crazy. Like to wake up, smoke a blunt. I swear to God on anything. A couple times in my life, I could say this. A couple times in my life, I woke up, smoked a blunt with Nick Diaz, who woke up on my couch, and then we went straight to the gym. Like I can literally say that, which is it's pretty crazy. Because like,
oh my God.
I'm still a little fanboy, but
I mean, are there any two better guys to meet to stoke your fire in the fight game?
man, Diego Sanchez is my favorite. Nick is cool, but Diego Sanchez, man, it's hard not to love that guy. It's hard not to love that guy.
And I recently was going through like the old seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, like just like binging through seasons, and like Diego is still like one of the most captivating characters that has ever been on that show and that has ever been in the UFC. And it's like 100% genuine spirit from that dude.
Yes. And the crazy thing is, so my wife, that's how my wife got into MMA. I don't know if she's a professional fighter as well.
Yeah.
But
Ashley Mob Life Gambino.
Yes, sir. And she grew up watching the first Ultimate Fighter, and it was really cool because when I was kicking it with Diego, I had Diego like send her a voice message, and actually it was a video message, and she posted it up on her thing. But he was really drunk, and it was hilarious, man. Me and Diego have a good time every time we hang out.
That's amazing, man. I mean, he's got, I mean, to this day, even with, I mean, the UFC has events every weekend, and every weekend there's a handful of fights that I might never forget. But Diego Sanchez to this day has a handful of the greatest fights that like will live in fight fans' hearts forever.
Oh man, it's crazy, man. Like I hope that he does really well in BKFC. I'm pretty sure that's what he's gonna do next. But I'm definitely going to be watching. And when he comes to Vegas, we're definitely going to be hanging out. You'll see some more pictures and posts and stuff. That's for sure. He's the same person he was on The Ultimate Fighter too. That's the coolest thing about Diego. He's the same guy.
Man, that all like is really brightening like to hear. So when did you like, when along this timeline did you get into acting and rapping?
So I've been rapping, well, making music. I hate calling it rap. I don't know why I hate calling it rap.
I
But when I
agree.
say
The
rapping,
word doesn't sound
it
right
sounds,
in the
it sounds
sentence.
like I'm like, it sounds like I have like my hats on sideways. I got saggy pants and all kinds of shit. You know what I mean? Like I think of like Rappy the Rapper in the '90s or something. But yeah, I've been making music since I was a kid, basically, and acting, that happened kind of randomly. I don't really do acting anymore, just because I'm just not a fan of it, to be honest. I'd rather, once I'm more established in MMA and all that stuff, I'm down to do some more acting. But acting happened when I came out here. I was actually homeless out here,
Damn.
staying in a circus parking lot.
Damn.
Yeah, I was with my kid and my wife in a car, and I was randomly looking through gigs on Facebook, and I found this one gig as auditioning for a background role as a Mexican cartel. And at the time, I had like short hair and stuff. I was like, hey, if I shave my head and like maybe shape my mustache, I might look a little Mexican. I don't know. So like, I did that, and I showed up with like a bandana and stuff, and I actually got the role. And it happened to be an a SAG film, which is a union project, and it was a Netflix movie. And that was my first film. And after that, I went to like the after party, and I met a bunch of producers, and they saw how I just literally came out here with a dream and ready to work, and they started putting me to work as like a big mafia guy here, strip club patron here, security guard there, and like I was getting backgrounds left and right, and then it started leading to like a couple lead roles, and then I stopped acting in 2020 when the pandemic happened, basically, and I haven't really been acting since.
I could definitely see you like doing well in an audition setting because you are your best salesman and you make efficient use of time when it comes to marketing yourself, you know. But I asked because I used to like do TV acting out in LA. I was on a Disney XD pilot once upon a time, and it's like,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
I agree with what you said about acting. Like in hindsight, like the best thing that ever happened to me was that Disney XD passed on that pilot and I stopped acting at a certain point.
It's a really,
It's a
really hard job. Like
grind. Those audition
yeah.
rooms are just soul crushing sometimes.
So like, yeah,
Soul
like people don't
crushing.
understand. Like, so I tell my wife all the time, like people ask me, like used to ask me, they're like, what's it like being an actor? And I would kind of break spirits, because I'd tell them, like, well, it's like if you're a prostitute but you're stuck in the DMV for 7 hours, and you're just waiting on your number to be called. And like
Oh
they're so
god.
confused, you know. But it really is like that, because like the prostitute part is like you have to do anything these guys want.
Who are you?
And
Whoever you
like,
want me to be.
yeah, like if you they had to, like I was playing this role where I was a fucking like a fat guy, like naked in like a bunny suit and shit like that. It was like sometimes you gotta suck it up for the money, you know what I mean? And if you pass on that, then they're gonna blackball you, and then you get blacklisted, and then everybody else passes on you. So it's like it's a very tight knit community, especially in Las Vegas. They call it Holly Vegas out here. But I tell everybody all the time, and the waiting part is like you show up on set, you're ready, like you're in character, you're ready to go, you're hyped up, and then you're just waiting for like 8 hours. And by the time you finally get to film your part, you're like sweaty, you gotta poop, like you want to get high, you know what I mean? Like it sucks sometimes, but that's work, man. It's definitely a job, and one of the hardest jobs I've ever done.
And yeah, plus man, I used it like I'm 24. So I was doing this in like eighth grade. And so like I was always around other kids who acted who were the worst. I hated every kid I ever met like in that setting because that most of them, that's all they did from like the moment they could talk until then. So it's like, so what you from LA? What sports teams do you like? It's like, I don't really follow that, but did you see who won the Oscars? And it's like, oh my God, I'm in an alien
Right.
universe right now.
Right. I had to like stop following these guys on Facebook because I got a lot of friends on Facebook that are actors, and every day it's just like people like I don't know if these guys are just like disconnected with how the world works, but every day they're posting like, oh, just booked a new role, just booked a new role. Hey, just got a new role. Like nobody gives a fuck. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
just do the
it's
damn
so
role. And
like so jealousy and resentment based. It really is.
yes, like everybody's trying to post that I got so many roles this week. I got so many roles that week. Make sure you book this role. Like when they post that there's roles available. Everybody's dumb enough to post like, "Hey, I submitted. Hey, I submitted." It's like, man, these people are crazy.
Just letting you know, I submitted.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well now you let everybody else know, so now everybody else is gonna submit too. You should have just shut the fuck up.
Well, so on the music making front, is that something that you just do independently as of now? But I mean, I know that like I've seen like different promo footage. It seems like a universe you're a little bit more familiar with. But like, is music something you're doing independently, or is that something that you're affiliated with someone with?
No, I do that independently. The only thing I rely on is somebody to produce it and film the videos because like I do the ideas for the videos and stuff like that too. And I write my own lyrics and all that stuff. And I used to produce my own songs, but producing your own, I'm sure like editing footage and music and all that stuff is like it's so tedious and it takes a lot of time. So I like to just go in to the studio, do my work and get out. And yeah, the only thing I rely on somebody for is making like putting it together and filming it. So when it comes to everything else, it's all me. Hopefully one day I'll be able to link up with somebody. Maybe somebody will see my music and think it's worth something and sign me to something. But till then, I'm just grinding.
So, as a fan of the genre, are you like a fan of any of the like rap battle organizations, like Smack URL, like any of that stuff?
Yeah, I haven't really checked into that, to be honest. This is the first time I really heard of that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I'd recommend checking like Smack, King of the Dot, like any of that stuff. I'm just wondering because like I used to be like a big fan of that stuff too. But it's funny like being a fan of fighting and rap, and then there's something like these high level like rap battle company that like Drake is co-hosting and stuff, and it's like, oh, that's like fighting and rap mixed together.
Yes, that's dope. I actually did a rap battle once when I was a kid. I snuck into a concert with a fake ID and all that stuff, and did. But that's a whole nother story.
So the fight is on January 22nd.
January 22nd.
All right. So between now and January 22nd, when you fight whoever your opponent is going to be in Rise FC in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for your second fight, why are you going to be a better fighter this time than you were the first time out?
So last time I was focused on everything but my opponent. I was focused on how I look, how I'm gonna perform and all that stuff instead of how I'm gonna fight and how I'm gonna hurt this guy. And now I've made all the sacrifices to where literally I don't even have time in the day to do anything other than put in work to hurt somebody. When I'm not training to hurt somebody, I'm rehabbing my body. When I'm not rehabbing my body or training to hurt somebody, I'm training my mind. When I'm not doing all three of those, I'm relaxing my mind and I'm probably sleeping. So the difference is going to be I'm all in on this. Like all my chips are all in on this, man. Like if I lose this fight, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen because this guy must be Superman or something if he beats me after this camp. Because I don't care how many nerves come into play. I don't care, if I walk into that octagon pregnant, I'm going to beat this guy up.
So is there any particular aspect of martial arts that you think you've made the most significant progress in?
Yes. I would say Muay Thai. Well, I would say, I guess just kicks in general.
Okay.
Because I'm training a lot of Taekwondo too. And I think people are going to see a lot of kicks during this fight.
And that's interesting because that's not something that we typically see a lot of in super heavyweight matchups.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, if I land one good kick on somebody, they're going down, whether it's to the body, to the leg. I've stopped a lot of other super heavyweights in sparring with kicks. And if I can land one of these in a fight, man, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad news for whoever's on the receiving end.
So, real quick, do you have any like other like formal sports background like prior to getting into fighting?
None at all, man. I was doing nothing but destroying my body, eating shitty food, sitting on a computer chair until I was like almost 30 years old. And I was like, hey, I guess I'll try to be a famous fighter. And that sounds horrible, but at the same time, I'm 31 years old and like I feel like I have no miles on my body. I feel like mentally, emotionally, physically, I'm young. I feel really fresh and I feel really young. And I see these guys that are my age and they're walking around like they're sore and shit. It's hard for them to wake up without coffee and like I don't know, man. I just feel like I'm rejuvenated. I got like a natural source of testosterone in me or something.
Like, so it's you've talked a lot about how you're vegan, and I believe your whole family's vegan. They went vegan with
Yes.
you, is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
And do you have your own vegan kitchen now?
Yes, I do. So I started that like maybe 2 weeks ago. I got a little cottage. What's it called? A house cottage. I forget what it's called. Some kind of license. It was like $120, and getting that lets you be able to sell food from your house. So I get people all the time like, hey, what do you eat? What's the ingredients? All that stuff. So I figured, fuck it, I'm just gonna start cooking for you people, and I started getting orders in, and yeah, now I'm cooking for people. So every time I cook for myself, I just post like, hey, I'm making this, and sometimes they'll buy it, sometimes they won't.
I mean, so as a guy who's training to fight in the super heavyweight division, what are the different components of your vegan diet that allows you to put in continuously more work as you've been doing?
So a ton of vegetables, obviously. I just eat a ton of vegetables when it comes to like chickpeas, uh, what are those fucking the little peas called pea something peas, but a lot of peas, a lot of green beans. I don't do salad as much as I should, but I probably should. A ton of red potatoes, brown rice. I don't do tofu. I don't do Beyond Meat or anything like that for myself. And yeah, honestly, like right now, I'm craving some fucking salad. I'm gonna go or some vegetables. I'm gonna go in LVAC and get a veggie bowl, which is basically like carrots, brown rice, cauliflower, peas, stuff like that.
Well, I've heard you say in the past that the one thing that you do still miss sometimes is chicken. Is that still the case?
100%. Yeah, yeah. Like my buddy gets chicken all the time, and I'm like, man, he gets chicken in front of me. I'm like, man, that looks so fucking good, but I can't do it. Sometimes you can dress tofu up the right way, but I can't even do tofu anymore. I'm being way more strict on my diet because you can also be vegan and be unhealthy at the same time. And going into my first fight, I was doing that a lot. Like I was vegan, but I was eating a lot of snacks and a lot of breads and stuff that like it just isn't good for you. So this time I'm being vegan, but also healthy. Like going vegan definitely made me lose a lot of weight, but going healthy vegan is going to make me lose a lot more weight.
So, Trap, on a few, I had a few broader points I wanted to discuss. So, what you've been described since your presence in the MMA community has begun. You've been described as a controversial character for a lot of different reasons that we've talked about, and plenty that we haven't that we don't need to really because whatever. And the one word that like always came up, even like with the Dr. Phil episode and with all the like troll stuff that I saw in my research, is like delusional, which is
Yep.
crazy to me. It's insane because of all words to pick, delusional is a crazy one because I think that you have been nothing but realistic and honest about what you want to get out of the fight at every step. And the fact is, you're honest about a lot of things that a lot of fighters are not truthful about. The kind of opponents that you want to face at this stage in your career. A lot of points of what, who you want to, and what steps you want to take, and why you want to take advantage of the power that you do have for it being a draw. So explain to people at home, what you consider yourself to be in this game and what you're hoping to get out of fighting.
So, I never, sometimes it takes another person to like look back at things, because you're in the middle of doing everything yourself. So I never really looked at it like that. I guess delusional is a pretty crazy term when when you consider everything. And yeah, man, I hear that a lot. I hear fake, delusional. Those are probably the two biggest things I hear, other than fat. First it's fact, then fake, and then delusional. But yeah, I would say I'm more inspired than delusional. I'm more motivated than delusional, and I'm more hopeful and faithful than delusional, because delusional is like, I don't know, hoping for something that's never going to come, and motivated is working for something so you can get it. So I would say, instead of delusional, I'm motivated and faithful.
That's the delusional goes along with arrogance, but delusional means that you're like trying to do something that could never ever be accomplished. And it seems like what you want to do is make a good living for you and your family out of being in the fight game. And it seemed like your initial goal was to make yourself a lot healthier and to lose a lot of weight. Both things you have accomplished and are working towards further accomplishing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I know I have a long way to go, but I'm definitely on the road.
It's interesting when there's a polarizing character, but it's crazy that you are polarizing at all. And it's like, as I mean, different pockets of community, we value and we're inspired by people's efforts to lose weight and get healthy, but only if they do it like on a certain set of terms. If they don't follow the rules, it seems like we don't like it.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I can see that. Yeah, people are crazy. Some of my biggest haters started out as like some of my biggest fans. I've lost coaches and all kinds of stuff over all the stuff that like other people
Social
think that's
media
important.
nonsense.
Yeah, like other people think that it's important. They might think that I think it's important, but I really don't. And it's just like, I'm to the point where that when it comes to maturity, that's the part that I'm most mature about right now in my life, is the social media aspect and how people can act weird about it. And just because you were on TV, people are weird sometimes. And I don't know. I hate even mentioning it, to be honest.
It's like there's a different, you hear haters used as it's probably a very overused term today, but it's like a lot of people don't realize that there is a difference between having haters, which is just people like rationlessly rooting against your success out of jealousy or just boredom, and then there's having people that hate you, which is when people respond negatively to things that you do because they're bad. There's a distinction there.
Or you got a really crazy side, which I've unfortunately deal with, and you'll definitely get this too. You'll have people messaging you, telling you, hey, and it'll be people that have never listened to your podcast ever before, because they'll find you through me, and they'll be like, hey man, I've been listening to your podcast for years. I was a big fan, but now you're losing all credibility because you got Trap Gambino on, and he's this and this and this. And I was his cousin, mother's brother, sister's uncle, and we did a bad deal back in the day. He used to wipe boogers on the wall. Who knows what the fuck they're gonna say? But like, these people are fucking crazy, man. Like, they literally made like fake profiles of me, and will comment on gym pages, and then I gotta go and tell these gyms like, hey, that's not me commenting this crazy stuff. And I gotta tell fighters like, hey, that's not me saying I'm gonna whoop your ass when I see you at the gym that I go to every day. Like, that's not me. That's somebody else trying to get me beat up. Like, it's the craziest shit ever, man.
It's like when I first saw the show Catfish, and I was like, I was like, there are people that do, and then I saw that there were like 9 seasons with 20-hour-long episodes each, and I'm like, there are this many people that dedicate that much time to deception on the internet. It blows my mind still to this day.
Right. It's like, I don't even know how they have time for that, or like what they get out of this. Like, especially dealing with me. Like, for the people who done what they did to me, like, I'm not even exaggerating. They have to like have so much time on their hands, because there's just like endless websites and articles and fake profiles and groups on Facebook and everything dedicated to this one guy who like doesn't even own a house in Las Vegas. You know what I mean? Like, damn, let me get a little bit first.
So, I mean, you described yourself as a performer and a prize fighter, which I think was really interesting because you said that in response to a question about sideshows like Jake and Logan Paul, and you said you don't really consider them sideshows. And the way you put it, I really agree with you. It's almost become like we've had the word prize fighter before, but now in this era with technology and sports reaching this pinnacle that it's at, and a lot of things in confusion have to be worked out because of that intersection, but it's almost made prize fighting its own separate sport.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And to my point, I think that skills have just evolved to the point where like everybody in the UFC is good. So like it's like you need personality to stand out. And a lot of people forget that like a lot of this entertainment comes from people not liking each other. Like, yeah, there's a sport side of it where like this guy has the best skills in the world. This guy has the best skills in the world. They're not talking shit to each other. They're just going to find out who's the best in the world. I get that aspect as a sport, but like, I'm not into it as a sport, to be honest. I'm into it as like, ooh, this guy was talking shit about this guy's mom. Let's see if he can, back it up. Like that's me. Or this guy wears crazy shit. Let's see if he fights crazy. For example, I was watching Rise FC yesterday, or
I saw this video on Facebook, and I was gonna let you explain it, so I didn't watch it.
Yeah, so I'm watching Rise FC, man. And there's a lot of talent on that card. There's a lot of lack of talent on that card too. But there's a lot of talent on that card that's lacking personality. For example, I'm not going to say any names, but you can probably guess who it is. There's this guy who fights there who has a brother who's in the UFC. And this is like Rise's boy. They've had him on every card. He wins every fight. And like, he's really, really good. Main events almost every card. And he's just so fucking boring every time they hand him the microphone or on social media. It's just all like nobody's paying attention to him, and he's doing a lot of great things. And unfortunately, like our world feeds off negativity. And I just feel like he needs a little bit more personality, and Rise FC needs a little bit more personality. So I'm hoping to be their guy when I come back.
I mean, that's a thing that I see all the time in MMA is nothing frustrates me more, right? When at the end of a UFC fight, if you're going to get interviewed, every single time now they ask you, who do you want next? And a lot of people are very uncomfortable. They think it's either, a lot of people like to be the company guy and say, well, I'm going to fight whoever they put in front of me, or we'll see.
Right.
But at the end of the day, dude, how many times, I mean, look at Jorge Masvidal. Look at the opportunities that he worked his way. Look at the opportunities that Chael Sonnen worked his way into back in the day because he was an entertaining character. Look at the height Tito Ortiz ascended to for the very reason. And it's like now they'll give you a chance to pick your opponent and to work your way up strategically. And a lot of people aren't taking that chance. And then those guys are the first ones to say, well, that guy only got a shot because he's talking. It's like, well, dude, that's part of the game. I'm sorry, right, but it is.
Yeah, one of my favorite to that point, one of my favorite examples of that is when Nate Diaz called out Jorge Masvidal, and or was it the other way around? I forget who called out who.
Yeah,
But
it was Nate. He said George Masvidal had a
yeah, I
good
heard
last
there's
fight.
a bad motherfucker in the crowd right now or something like that.
Yeah.
Or I heard there's a let's see who the real gangster is or something like that. I was like, damn, see that. That's a call out. That's how like two guys that like kind of had no business fighting, but now they do, because now there's a beef, and like it has nothing to do with rank. Now there's a fucking cool ass belt out of nowhere, you know.
Call outs can be respectful as well. You know, they don't have to be disrespectful, but like, you know, think about the opportunity that like Chael Sonnen, when they say, Chael, that was a great fight. What do you think about your performance? Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck.
It was amazing. One of my favorites.
It's a different kind of skill, you know, and the thing is, a lot of people are in this sort of denial that it's not holding them back, or that it's not a part of the game. But like, it's so great because everybody knows it's a huge part of the game. You look at people that are denied title shots in the UFC after 10-fight winning streaks. What's the common denominator? Nobody cares who they are, unfortunately.
Right. Everybody's good nowadays. Everybody's winning fights. Everybody's getting knockouts and submissions. It's like you have to stand out. You have to have people hate on you. You have to have people talking about you. Like I opened Instagram today and there was an article, a fucking like somebody wrote an article. It was like Joe Rogan explains why Jake Paul will never fight in the UFC. And I'm like, who the fuck writes an art? That is the most wasted time
so
article.
Goofy.
Like, it's like, duh, you know what I mean? It's like people write articles on anything, but if you're somebody with that much clout, that's what you want. You want people to be writing articles on you. Like, for example, there was one time where I commented on a BKFC post. Literally, I forget what it was. I was just fucking around. I was like, ha ha ha, pussy. You know, like literally just one word. And this guy went and wrote a complete article about this, of why I should fight this guy, how the matchup would go, and all this stuff and this guy was like a BKFC champion. I didn't even have a fight at the time. And it's crazy how much clout is currency nowadays in 2021.
I mean, and it is for everybody, not just fighters and athletes and rappers. It's for everybody. And, you know, the thing about, I'm not a social media guy really at all. I don't have an Instagram. I'm not very active on Facebook. Twitter is the only thing I've really done. And you know, it's just to share, you know, engage in sports conversation, all that stuff. But like, there are certain people in this area that have come up in all genres of life. I mean, I hate to use 6ix9ine as an example, but I mean, his power, like in the use of social media, is undeniable. And you look at guys like Jake and Logan Paul, so many people will say that they hate them so much, but then you look at their pay-per-view numbers, and I think somebody's lying.
Right. Exactly. That's my point, man. Like one of so Rise FC, when they had the pay-per-view with me, it was their highest selling pay-per-view of all time. And I was supposedly their most hated fighter of all time. Like they had, I don't know if you know that they had people like calling in threatening bombs. There's articles online that people wrote that was like trying to make the fight not between me and Suggs not happen because I handpicked it, and just all kinds of crazy stuff. And the effort that they put into it does amount to a little bit of money, so that's always good.
I mean, like as a college sports fan, like I'm, you know, currently in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm at UK law school. I went to UK for undergrad. I've lived in Kentucky all my life. I always watch Kentucky basketball games, but Trap, you know who I watch the second most? Duke basketball, because I want to see them lose.
Yeah, that's great.
So, I mean, are you, by the way, with all these other like sports seasons having recently begun, are you like, you have any like teams that you rep?
No, not at all, man. I'm not really a sports guy whatsoever. My brother is big time. He's a Bengals guy. Bengals in Ohio State.
Bengals. It's been an unexpectedly fun year to be a Bengals fan. I'll say that.
Yeah, see, I don't know anything about any of those. I hate when I'm like in an elevator and a guy starts talking sports. I just like have to nod my head like I know.
Isn't it funny? Because as dudes, it's the first thing that is usually reverted to in an awkward situation.
Right, exactly.
Well,
I don't have that.
So I have another question. So you've talked before about possibly down the line, possibly making it down to heavyweight.
Yes.
Now, here's the like super heavyweight. I mean, for the folks at home, what are your thoughts currently on the division of super heavyweight as compared to heavyweight? I've heard you talk about it before, but folks, people who aren't as familiar with the overall MMA scene might not know what the reputation is of the super heavyweight division.
So the super heavyweight division is known for being lackluster. It's known for being, you know, having not having a lot of talent in the division. It's known for freak fights, Japan pride, all that stuff. But that's part of the reason why I want to pursue the super heavyweight division first. Just because, first of all, I'm big as fuck, and it's gonna take a while for me to get down to heavyweight. But even then, even if I'm like down towards heavyweight, I might stay at super heavyweight for a while because it's almost like a city that hasn't been built yet. Um, you know, this might sound crazy, but Dana White one day said that Ronda Rousey would never be in the UFC, females would never be in the UFC, and he needed somebody like Ronda Rousey, somebody with a big personality and a star factor to bring female fighters into the UFC. And I feel like maybe, just maybe, they need somebody to do the same for super heavyweights.
It's really interesting that you said, because I've always said, I mean, especially Dana White, and there's a lot of complaints about Dana White, some of them very justified, some of them not. But at the end of the day, what anybody can't deny about Dana White is that the man is almost single-handedly responsible for their survival of what we now know as mixed martial arts. And
Yeah.
he had once said that about women fighting in the UFC. And guess what? Today, there are few champions that he puts more on the UFC, or that puts the UFC on its shoulders more than some of the female main events and champions that there are. And the thing about Dana White is money always talks to him, is the
Right.
thing.
And oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you make that comparison, because I think that's kind of the approach you would have to have. And it makes sense, despite that the history that super heavyweight has throughout the course of MMA history.
Absolutely, man. Like, and some of those female fighters are some of the most marketable fighters in the UFC, and I know Dana's loving that. And my
I'm
point
wearing
is
a
like,
Thug Rose shirt right now.
oh, that's badass. My wife's a big fan of Thug Rose, and like, so I've had, I'm a 0-1 amateur MMA fighter. Realistically, nobody should have ever fucking even know. Nobody should know who I am.
Right.
But that's not true. Like, a lot of the MMA world knows who I am. A lot of UFC Hall of Famers like Mark Coleman and Gary Goodridge have my back, and Nick Diaz and Diego Sanchez, and all these people know who I am. And I have something here that I just feel like if I don't do anything with it, it's like wasting. But if I take it and just see, like, let's put all my stock into this one coin and see if we can take it to the moon. And right now I'm trying to see if we can take it to the moon.
And so we think of like the possibility of super heavyweight making a step up. We think of that as being so absurd, because we're used to thinking of super heavyweight as slow, out of shape, low quality regional show level fight. But the thing is, more people are getting into MMA. The sport is growing exponentially and has been for a while. And so that means that there's better fighters, that the roster of female fighters throughout the world is infinitely better than it was. The guys at 125 have gotten infinitely better than they were at the beginning. And so you have to think that more and more skilled and athletic guys are going to be fighting in MMA, even though they're unable to make it under the 265-pound limit.
Yeah, 100%, man. Another example is Charles. I think his name's Charles Bennett, who just fought the
Crazy Horse.
No, okay, that's the wrong one. Not Charles Bennett. Something Bennett. Damn, what's his name? I don't know. He just fought the UFC, but he's a big guy.
Chris Barnett.
Barnett, not Bennett. Damn it. Yeah.
Knocked out
Yeah.
Gian Viante with that sick
Yes,
wheel
yes.
kick, and then landed a somersault onto his ass.
Yeah. Funny story. He's an ex-training partner of one of the guys I was supposed to fight, but ended up falling through. But yeah. He's a a great example of that, man. I feel like a lot of these guys don't know what's out there because it hasn't been put on that certain platform. Just like I'm just now learning that I can be an athlete. I'm just now like teaching myself, like, hey, stupid, you are an athlete. You can do this, you can do that. Like my whole life, I thought that I was just like, I can't do anything, but you never know what your body can do until you push it to the limit.
And so for those reasons, I mean, all the reasons that it's harder to find a super heavyweight fight in the United States in a really, in a more high profile show. And because that is more, historically linked to Japanese promotions that are granted pretty major, is fighting in Japan or overseas in any aspect something that has been on the table or that you've at least considered?
Absolutely. I would love to.
Feels like
I
you'd be
think
like a huge star in Japan for a ton of reasons.
I feel like the same. I feel the same way. Maybe I should contact him and say, what's up, man? I was on Dr. Phil. You know this guy. Come on. Maybe there's a language barrier, but they see his bald head. They'll get the point that I'm a little famous. I don't know.
Well, like and also, I mean, you pull off like the flashy look and any like every promo shot and like music video so well. It seems to go so well with the I think showmanship and pageantry are the right words to describe like the scene of major Japanese MMA promotions.
Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of that showmanship too. I have UFC Fight Pass. So I watch the old Pride tapes all the time. And I'm like, man, the way that they had these guys coming out with all this pyro and all these, like this one, like Ryzen had the guy come out with the noodle cup and all that stuff. I love that stuff, man.
So do you have like a manager or do you manage yourself?
I manage myself. I don't have a manager. I've been managing myself this entire time and it's been stressful.
I mean, yeah, that's got to be a huge challenge, especially when you have a more versatile range of opportunities than the average fighter that a lot of fighters have management.
Yeah, one day I'll definitely have a manager and he'll be able to put everything together for me and we'll get rich together. But until then, I'm kind of struggling on my own.
All right, Trav, is there anything else, anybody you want to shout out, anything else you want to say, anything else you want to say before the end of our conversation? The floor is yours.
Sure, man. So all these other podcasts, I spent a lot of time talking about the people who don't like me and forgetting about the people who do. So I just want to take this time to say thank you to all the people who do support me and the people who can relate to me and my journey. And I hope it inspires at least one of you to do the same thing that I'm doing, or at least try to better yourself or your life or your health, because man, it's hard and you go through a lot of stuff, but damn, at the end of the day, it's worth it. So to all my fans who love me and support me, thank you. You keep me motivated.
Well, folks, you can catch Trap Gambino in his next fight for Rise FC January 22nd against an opponent to be named later in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This has been Brady Grove with Rotoballer's official MMA podcast, Tap That, bringing you another interlude episode with Trap Gambino. Trap, thank you so much for being here today. This has been fantastic.
No problem, brother. I appreciate the conversation.
And best of luck and health to you leading up to your fight, man. Really excited to see you back in action.
Thank you very, very much. I'm looking forward to putting on a show.
I can't wait to see the show, man. You have a good one.
You too, brother.
Well, folks, that was it for this interlude episode. We'll be back this week with our predictions for the fight card, UFC Vegas 43, other interlude episodes coming up. God, that was an amazing conversation with Trap Gambino. Thanks for listening. Have a good night, folks.